Welcome everyone to this video. Yeah, I'm using Borderlands background gameplay this time. That's new, isn't it? Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder is known as, to everyone else in the entire world, ADHD. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. So, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, sounds like it's, it sounds pretty easy to understand. It's attention deficit, and you're wow, I did not need to drive. I could have walked. So that title, that name, ADHD, is already not very accurate. Where am I supposed to... Oh, up. Okay. That name, ADHD, attention deficit, is already inaccurate to what ADHD actually is. Because attention deficit implies that you have a deficit of attention, but that's not what ADHD is. ADHD isn't like... It's the inability to regulate your attention. Oh, hello. Huh? Okay. This went really well. Anyways, so let's talk about what that means. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it's not an attention deficit, it's the inability to regulate your attention. That's what ADHD really is. It's not that you have a deficit of attention, it's just that you can't regulate it. So let me give you an example of what that means. Right after I kill this thing. There we go. What the heck? Get away from me. Oh my god, there's a bunch of dogs trying to kill me. So if you have ADHD, actually a decent example would be me. This is what happened to me in most school. People with ADHD, you find it really hard or almost impossible to pay attention to something you don't like or really care about. So that's why in school, if you have ADHD and you look at your report card, you'll notice that your report card, you'll be doing really good in one or two subjects and then not very good in other. That's because you actually find that one subject, you actually really like that subject, so you're able to pay attention to that subject way easier. Just go turn this mission. That was really easy. That was a really easy mission. So now we know what ADHD really is. It's not a deficit of attention, it's just the inability to regulate your attention, which that is genuinely what ADHD is. You know, like I said, you'll find yourself in school doing really well in like one subject and then not very well in any of the others, and that's what ADHD is. It's the inability to regulate your attention rather than like a deficit of attention. Let's just start shooting things like this guy. So excuse me, I don't deserve to be shot at like you're shooting at. Okay, thank you. Oh, I missed. Did not miss then. So what else does ADHD entail other than just, you know, you being unable to regulate your attention, thus having a harder time paying attention in class and things you don't really care about? Well, there's also the hyperactive part, and that is accurate. People with ADHD can be very hyperactive. I, for one, am very hyperactive. If you know me, you would know that is absolutely true. There are three different types of ADHD. There's, let me read them. There's inattentive, hyperactive / impulsive, and combined. I actually am combined. If you watch my streams, you'll know that I have attention issues. I get pretty easily distracted a lot of the time. But if you know me in real life, you would know that I do really struggle to sit still, and I do, like... Oh, what? I thought that guy was crawling. That confused me. Uh-oh. I just need some... please, I need some peace and quiet. Please. I just need a little peace and quiet. I need to speak about my issues. This is the wrong game to choose to speak about ADHD. I do have a tough time sitting still. I mean, it was pretty difficult in class, even though I can sit still. I just have a hard time sitting still. Whenever I'm doing something, like whenever I'm writing or making a video, I get like the urge to move around and stuff. I mean, if you watch my streams, you'll probably be able to hear me moving in my chair a lot. So, like, I do have a tough time sitting still. It is an issue for me. Oh my god, I'm missing so much. So the reason why attention deficit and saying that isn't accurate is because you'll notice anyone who has ADHD, they tend to hyperfixate on things like a lot. And that doesn't, and that's just proof that you don't have an attention deficit and that it's a regulation issue. Oh man, I am sucking right now. That's just proof that it's a regulation issue and not a deficit issue. Because you can pay attention to things, but it's like you pay attention to specific things that your brain finds interesting. That's why people with ADHD tend to go down rabbit holes. And like they start, when they're supposed to be doing something that they don't really enjoy doing, they start going down a rabbit hole of things that they do enjoy. Like anyone with ADHD, if they've ever been doing homework and they're doing homework on a subject that they don't really like, they'll find themselves, you know, looking for things that they do like while doing that thing that they don't like. But that is what ADHD really is. It's not an attention deficit issue. It's just it's attention regulation issue. So really, it should be ARHD. Yeah, ARHD. Attention regulation hyperactivity disorder. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it really is. So with those 3 different types of ADHD, if you have inattentive ADHD, oh, not these things! Oh god, I hate these things so much. So if you have that inattentive ADHD, you'll find yourself you'll find yourself getting really easily distracted. And that's like the main thing with it. You'll find yourself being very easily distracted, and you'll put off and avoid tasks. And that's what I do quite a lot. Can these guys chill? Can these guys chill and just let me leave? I'm literally like trying to leave them alone, and they're not letting me leave them alone. And of course that hyperactive, the hyperactive type is that you'll have a really hard time sitting still. That's number 1. And then you'll frequently shift from task to task. Now I experience both. My attention does drift a lot, and I do what's it called? I do put off tasks, but I am way more hyperactive than I am like inattentive, because I can pay attention when I know I need to, but I do tend to shift from task to task a lot, and I do put like homework. Whenever I have homework, I put off that homework until like the very last second. I'm sure that a bunch of people with ADHD do that, but I'm way more hyperactive than I am like inattentive. Like, I tend to shift from task to task a lot, and whenever I'm, like, sitting down doing something, I tend to get up and move around. Like, I have an urge to move. Like, I physically, like, have a hard time sitting still. Hey, how's it going? You good, man? What's up? He was just chilling. Alright, it's in here. This is gonna be like a boss fight, I assume. I have both. I have combined, but I'm more hyperactive than I am, like... Oh my god. Why can it shoot energy beams? What's that? Why can it do that? Alright, where's it? It looks like the weak spot's at the mouth. So, people with ADHD tend to struggle in school a lot. You know, I think that's, like, really normal. And I struggled in school a lot, especially in certain subjects. But one thing I did... Oh my god. One thing I did notice in school is that the classes I always did the best in were classes where I could do homework, like, in class. Those are the classes I always did the best in. And the reason for that, at least in my case, is because I was basically suffocated, and the only thing I was able to do was the homework that was right in front of me. So any class that allowed me to do homework in class, I immediately knew I would do way better in that class, because that's what happened to me with, like, history classes and, like, a science class one time. They're the only classes I've gotten, like, really good grade on, was, like, a certain history class and then a science class. Although I did always get good grades in history because, like, I really like history, so I was always able to do well in history. Which also falls in line with how ADHD works. The reason why... classes where you can do homework, where you can just do homework in class are so good for students with ADHD is because it leaves no chance that we'll forget about the homework, and it eliminates every other distraction we might have. It eliminates every distraction that you might have by forcing you to think about just the homework that's right in front of you, so you end up just doing it. So if you want to do something that you don't really want to do, or you probably won't want to do at home, you basically have to suffocate yourself and leave there literally nothing to distract you, which is what happens when you do homework in class. There's nothing else for you to do. There's no real distractions there, so you're left with just the homework, and also it leaves no chance that you'll forget about it. Part of the reason why students with ADHD do so bad in school a lot of the time is because of homework. They take the homework home, they don't do it, and then they forget about doing it. Which is why, like, schools think that, like, in order to compensate for students with ADHD, they need to extend deadlines, but it just doesn't work. If you wanna make students with ADHD do better, let them do their assignments in class, or instead of extending the deadline, shorten them. Shorten the deadline. And, like, I know that sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke. That's genuinely not a joke, because the reason why I did so bad with homework in school was because I would put it off. I would get the homework, I would take it home, then I'd put it off, and then I would forget about the homework. Whereas if I was just able to do it in class, I'd do it right then. Or if it's like a project, if the deadline was shortened, there's less of a chance I'm gonna forget about it. So, like, saying to shorten deadlines for students with ADHD sounds really stupid, but it does actually work. Like, it will work if you shorten deadlines. So, like I said, ADHD is something that, like, it seems like no one really knows how to handle. Like, no school really understands how to handle ADHD, it looks like, because they have the wrong idea of what it is. So, it ends up being something that never really gets any attention. But a lot more people have ADHD than you probably think. Like, if you think you have ADHD, you probably do have ADHD. It's a lot more common than you think it is. Like I said, if you think you have ADHD, odds are you probably do have it, because it's pretty common. One thing that is interesting that was genuinely believed was that it was believed that ADHD only affected boys for a while, because boys were perceived as rowdy and rambunctious. That's not true. It does not take a genius to figure out that that is not true. ADHD can and does affect a lot of people. My girlfriend has ADHD. But also, ADHD doesn't make someone rowdy and rambunctious. That's just not what ADHD does. So, now that we have a better idea as to what ADHD is, how can you cope with it? How can you make your life easier with ADHD? Because ADHD makes your life intrinsically harder. So how can you make your life easier with ADHD? Well, I got some news for you. Medication will help the best. I have heard countless stories about someone with ADHD who took medication for the first time, and they say stuff like, it felt like I could think straight for the first time in my life. And that's genuinely what ADHD does. It makes your thoughts cloudy. It makes it so that you can't really think straight. You're constantly bouncing from topic to topic within your mind, and then you take medication for the first time, and it's just quiet. If you can actually think. Like, that's what happens. If you don't want to take medication, what you can do to try and keep yourself on task is when you get home, you just have to immediately do your homework. That's what you need to do. You cannot wait to do it. If you can do your homework in class, do it in class. Like, that's the best thing you can do. But if you can't do it in class, if there's no time to do it in class, you have to do it immediately. Like right after you get home from school, you just have to whip out your homework and just start doing it. You have to do your homework immediately right after you get out of school. You do your homework immediately. But I know for a lot of people that's really, really hard to do. Got it. Okay. I thought he didn't take damage, but he did take damage, and he took a significant amount of damage. Do your homework right after you get home from school. That is the first thing to do, and this also applies to college. Do homework literally as soon as you can, because the biggest thing with ADHD is that if you don't end up doing it immediately, odds are you're gonna forget about doing what you need to do. So you have to do it as quickly as you can. You have to do it as soon as you can. But that might not work for a lot of people. I know that probably wouldn't work for me. So what did I do? Well, what I do now, at least, I mean, back in high school, I struggled a lot with homework, and that never really got any better no matter how hard I tried. But what I do now, especially in college, is I have a calendar, and that calendar has every single like piece of homework or classwork that I need to do on it, and I check it every single day. So if you have ADHD and you want to be able to, not have horrible grades, you're gonna want to set alarms, have a calendar like I do, or just something to help you keep track of what you gotta do. And trust me, it does help. It does help a lot more than you probably think it does. So now I want to talk about, kind of like what I, throughout my life, and how I struggled with ADHD in different ways. I had ADHD my whole life. Anyone, like, it should have been glaringly obvious to literally anyone that I did have ADHD. It was like I was literally the most textbook case of ADHD in my life. And I can pretty easily spot someone with ADHD. It's just, are they having similar symptoms to what I had when I was a kid? Because I had a pretty extreme, I guess extreme isn't the right word, but I had a pretty obvious case of ADHD. And anyone that knows me or has, like, spoken to me or watched my streams can pretty easily tell, oh yeah, this kid has ADHD. But I definitely had it. I was constantly getting lost in stores. That should have been a pretty telltale sign. I constantly got distracted. My mom had to sit down and do my homework with me to make sure I did it. I actually did my homework. And even in school, you could even if you looked at my report card, you could tell that, like, something was off, because I had really good grades in, like, history, and then, like, I had really good grades in history, and then all my other classes were like D's and C's, but I had like an A in history. So clearly I was capable of doing well in classes. It's just something was keeping me from doing well in classes. But my mom and my mom and dad, they refused to believe that I did have ADHD. I think it's because they didn't really know what it was. But now they now that I got, like, officially diagnosed by a doctor, now they know. Now they So when I was a kid, I was constantly getting lost in stores, and my mom even one time made a joke about how she was afraid for me to start driving because I'd get distracted by a butterfly and crash. So I think from a pretty early age, I definitely had ADHD, and it was pretty obvious that I had ADHD, and I struggled a lot from it. But I've never taken medication for it. I've never gotten medication for ADHD because, well, no one ever thought I had ADHD, even if I did think I had it. No one thought I did. So from a pretty early age, I had pretty obvious undiagnosed ADHD, and I did actually get officially diagnosed, but that wasn't until way later, when I was like 16 or 17 during COVID. But I had throughout elementary school, especially like early elementary school, but throughout school, like elementary school, my mom pretty much had to watch me and make sure I did my homework on time. And when I became a little bit more independent, my grades started to drop pretty drastically because I wasn't really, my homework grade began to drop pretty drastically because I could pay attention in class pretty easily. In class, I could pretty easily pay attention. What's wrong with this? Okay, I don't know what's up. So it was really easy for me to pay attention in class, and I did really well on tests and actual classwork. It's just my homework was a really big issue for me because I don't have a fire weapon. I don't have a fire weapon. Oh no. Wait. Oh, I have this. Oh, that's what you gotta do. Okay. I'll hit it. I'll hit it. Wait, did I not turn that one on? No, I definitely did turn that one on. Nothing. Don't pay attention. So when I became a little bit more independent, my grades started to drop pretty greatly. But there were some classes I did really well in, like history, because I really liked history. I found it really interesting. Therefore, I was able to do really well in it. So I had the capability to do really well. I just had unmedicated ADHD and no way to cope with ADHD and make it manageable in my life. So I ended up having mediocre grades throughout school, and in college I did really bad in college because that's a sentence. My first few semesters of college were really bad because I ended up getting a job and I ended up hyper-focusing on that job. I think that is because of ADHD. ADHD left me unable to focus on a lot of important things at once, which is why I quit doing YouTube during the time that I had that job, and my grades and classes started to drop, and I ended up just kind of like, wait, I wasn't supposed to go down that way. I ended up not doing well in class, and I just stopped going to classes because of this job. I prioritized the job over school and YouTube, and that ended up kind of like uprooting my life, kind of. So I ended up having bad grades in school. I probably got put on academic probation for a while without even knowing it. And I think that honestly, even though getting being employed and being able to work is good, I think it was a pretty bad decision for me to do that. I think it was a pretty bad decision for me to do that because, well, I wasn't able to focus on something that was more important than the job, which was school. And I honestly think it was partly because my manager was overscheduling me. But now I'm doing fine in school. I started going back to school and started taking classes again, and now I'm doing fine in classes. And things are going great for me. I'm doing fine on YouTube. But even now, ADHD is still affecting me. When I record a video, I tend to not actually start editing that video until a while later. But even now, when I record a video, I tend to not edit it until like way later. And when I do edit, I have a tough time starting the process of editing something. But I do know, like, in the back of my mind that if I were to take, like, Adderall or something, I'd probably be able to finish most videos and most things that I post, like, in one sitting. But usually, if in my mind I know that something's gonna take more than 30 minutes, I know that it's not gonna be happening in one sitting. That's just unfortunately how my brain works, how I operate, and it's bad. But hey, that's we're gonna be drunk driving. Let's go. Wait, it's right here. Never mind. But I wanted to be a drunk driver. I desperately wanted to be a drunk driver.
He loved life.
Oh my God, there's so much. There you are.
Your sister screwed slagger.
Hold on, wait. Oh, I'm just gonna stab him. There we go. There are a few more things about ADHD that makes it slightly more dangerous and destructive to people's lives. People with ADHD, they don't tend to think in long-term rewards. They tend to more enjoy short-term rewards, which is why people with ADHD are more susceptible to addiction, because they like things that give them bursts of dopamine, like sugar or drugs. Yeah, ADHD is hereditary. So that's why addiction, quote-unquote addiction, runs in the family, or addiction is hereditary, because ADHD is hereditary, and people with ADHD are more susceptible to addiction. That is a fact. That is true. People with ADHD are more prone to addiction because they enjoy, like, immediate dopamine. Things you get, they like immediate rewards. That's why sugar, people with ADHD love sugar. That's why I love sugar. I mean, maybe not entirely because of my ADHD, but I do have a massive sweet tooth. But people with ADHD are more prone to addiction because they like that short-term burst. They like the immediate burst of dopamine you get from things like sugar or drugs or alcohol or things like that, because you get dopamine from those things immediately, whereas, like, people with ADHD, their brains can't really compute something like a long-term reward. I know there's definitely probably a better way to explain that, but I hopefully you understand. People with ADHD like short-term rewards, things you get in the short term. Like, basically they like immediate rewards as to doing something as opposed to doing something and then getting a reward for it later. So that's why people with ADHD are more prone to addiction, because of the burst of dopamine you get from things like sugar or drugs or anything else that you can get addicted to. People with ADHD are more susceptible to oh my God, how did I get in here? People with ADHD are more susceptible to depression because you have difficulties with staying focused and being organized and everything that ADHD can do to you. So you end up feeling you end up having a feeling of you end up feeling overwhelmed, and that can lead to you having not a very good mood, which is why people with ADHD are more susceptible to depression, and like I already explained, they're more susceptible to addiction. So I know this to be true because I have experienced both addiction and depression, and that is kind of how I know that this is... Can you shut up? I'm trying to talk. I have experienced both addiction and depression in my life, and it does really, really suck. Oh, what the fuck is going on? Irish people or hillbillies?
They burned our homes to the ground. Shoot him. Shoot him.
They both suck. Let's see. Let's weigh the pros and cons. So, Irish people have alcohol. Yeah, I gotta say that really that makes me way happier. Irish people and alcohol. Hey guys. Man, that was really easy. Give me your thing, give me the thing, give me the thing, give me the thing, give me the thing. Yay. So yeah, people with ADHD can experience or are more susceptible to things like addiction and depression. I have experienced both. And it really does suck what ADHD can do if it's not like treated or looked at or cared about. And a lot of people have ADHD, so a lot of people probably suffered in the exact same way that I did, which does make me kind of bummed out, I'm gonna be honest. But if you think you have ADHD, you probably do have ADHD. It's not uncommon. You should get it checked out, and you should take your medication, because that is genuinely the best way to help. And if you have ADHD, just be aware that you are more susceptible to things like addiction and depression and probably a plethora of other things. So you have to be careful with ADHD. I wasn't careful, and I ended up getting addicted and depressed. And it did really suck. And luckily I'm better now, but it sucked for a while. Anyways, I don't know how coherent this video was or how coherent my my thoughts were, but that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'm gonna see you all later. Goodbye.